Hey, how's it going? Okay, in this week's video, we're going to be looking at making a slideshow using stills or clips inside another object. So, like you'll see in the example that's playing right now, we're going to be using this TV image and we're going to be using the screen as kind of our background for our slideshow to go in and out. We'll be looking at some transitions. Well, we'll be creating our own transitions using some VHS effects and how we can use the blend mode and things like that to kind of give it more effect. We'll be looking at some sort of sound effects towards the end as well, and it should end up looking pretty cool and something that you should be able to use over and over again in future projects and things like that. All of the stuff that we're going to use is in the Google Drive, so feel free, download that. Yeah, let's just get stuck straight in. Alright, so here we are in our project. We've got a few still images there, little TV picture, all going to help us make the effect that we're going to work for. All the files except for the audio files that we're going to be using are available in the Google Drive link, which will be in the description below. So feel free to go ahead and download that and get all these if you want to use these to practice with. All of the pictures are from Pexels, so they're all free to use anyway. I think the TV image itself was done in Adobe Firefly. If you've not used that, it's good fun, worth messing around with. But anyway, so what I've also done is we have this version, which is the TV with no background or anything on it, which is pretty cool. But also I have included a PSD file, which you can just drag and drop straight in. When you go to drop it in, you'll get this little import window, and we want to make sure we hit individual layers and hit it at layer size. So what that'll do is then that'll import it in the two separate layers that it's split out onto on the PSD file, and also keep it at the existing size. So hit OK. That gives us this little folder. So we can see we've got our background, so we'll just drag and drop that on. We'll go to effect controls, select that, and then just increase that so it fits the entire width. Then back into our TV split folder, and we'll take our TV layer, and that's our TV layer there. So if we select that, effect controls, and we just zoom that down a bit, and then play about with the positioning to get it to where we want it to sit. So around about there is probably alright. I'm going to move the TV itself up, so you can see that's just the TV layer. So I'm going to move that up on the layers way up to V8, just to give us room for playing about with the effects and the still images that we're going to drop in here underneath. So we'll go back to the stills that we've got, and I've already changed all of these to 1 second each. So whenever you import these, they'll be 5 seconds. So if you just right click, speed duration, and change the duration to 1 second, select all of them and just drop them in, and then drag these other two layers out just so that they fill the whole gap. Now you can see straight away we've got all sorts of problems here with the image coming up behind the back of the TV and things. So first thing we're going to do is TV layer selected, effect controls, and we're just going to draw a mask, and we'll zoom in a little bit for this and just draw a mask around the actual screen of the TV in here. Okay, so there's our mask, but we want to hit inverted, and that way then when we put this back to fit again, we can see we've got a hole here in the middle, and that's showing our pictures in behind. All our pictures, because this TV is a floating layer on its own, all the pictures will be behind the TV and come out the other side. So I'm going to reset the scale on that and create a mask just around the TV screen itself, so that once we resize this, it's going to fit in perfectly. And I'm just going to add transform to it from the effects control, change the scale down to maybe 18. Yep, looks good. Then I'm going to press select that and Control C, draw a wee box, select all the others, right click, paste attributes, and I want to take everything, and then hopefully, yep, so these will probably just need some positioning changing, but that should be good to go. Okay, cool. So there we go. We've got all our pictures This one, for some reason, the mask, you can see a wee bit slipping out over the top, so just double check that. And okay, and that's us. So there we've got our pictures all in there, and that's looking great. So next thing we're going to do is, these effects are available in the drive that I've got. So this one's just a VHS overlay. So I will cut that last bit off, and then as per all the others, we're going to go in here, hit the pen tool, and draw a wee mask just so it stays within the screen. Fire it up on overlay and drop the opacity down to about 35. And that looks good. And then what we're going to be doing is going in here to this other file, which is on the G drive too, and picking out bits that we're going to use for transition cuts in between the two. So all I do is just flick through and look for kind of jerky bits like that. Drop that in, select it, effect controls, and we're going to change the blend to overlay, and we're going to draw a little mask. And there we go, and we're just going to repeat that for the rest of them as well. Okay, so yeah, so we've got our slideshow in there, we've got our transitions going across with the glitch effect, and that's all looking pretty good. So one thing I want to do next is take this overlay effect and drop it down a couple of layers, doesn't really matter where. Go in and create an adjustment layer, new item, adjustment layer, and just drag that in underneath the TV layer. Stretch it out the whole way, select it, up into your effects, and we're going to search for noise. Double click it to apply it to the layer, and then into effect controls, and then down here you'll see noise, and I'm just going to apply that for 11%. Now that will impact the entire screen, so grab my pen again and create another mask, and instead of just putting it in around the actual TV, I want to do this one much like we did with the TV layer itself, and kind of have this so it only applies to the TV layer, because we don't want the grain affecting all the outside. So okay, so that's our mask done. So the grain will now only impact the TV screen itself, which is good. That's what we want. Okay, so we've got this lovely red line now across the top. So if we just select everything and up to sequence and render selection, what that's going to do is that's going to pre-process all of the bits that are in the clip already that have been selected and allow for a smooth playback on it. So we'll just let this run its course.
Much later.
Okay, so yeah, render complete. So if we just hit play, we've got some VHS style glitch transitions, we've got some grain, we've got some crackle on the screen. That all looks really good, but there's one thing we're missing still, and that is the sound effects. So going to shimmy this bottom line up so I can see all of the audio. Now that line is from this VHS overlay effect, and there is not actually any sound on that, so I'm just going to get rid of that. That's not really necessary. So up in the effects then, let me see, sound effects. I found a couple of sound effects. Now unfortunately these two I cannot share because these are purchased ones, but if you do, we Google around or look wherever you get your normal sources from, you will find staticky kind of sounds somewhere. There's hundreds of them online, a lot of them are free. If you want to have a look, audio.com, there'll be a link in the description. There's a discount, I think 70% off, but it's a good discount if you buy an annual year. I may get a little kickback if you purchase through that link, but that's neither here nor there. The quality of the stuff that's on there is really good, and the music especially is very good. Big fan of it. But I will just add in this little bit of crackle to start with. Here, it's just tiny bit of static going on in the background, nothing too dramatic. And then this electric crackle I kind of like as well, so I will, well, if we look here, so I'm going to click this bottom line, drag that down so we can see the waveform better. There's not much happens at the start, so I'm just going to drag that up and get rid of it. But then in here, in each of our transition points, what I'm going to do is increase the crackle at each one. So at the start of the transition, if we go to our audio layer, hold control and you'll see you get this. If you hover on the line, you'll get a cursor and a plus sign. So click on that, come forwards to the actual transition point, click again, and then at the end of it, click again. And then we can grab this middle one, just selecting it, and just pull it straight up. And what that'll do is that'll cause a peak in the volume. So it'll be at the normal volume, and then it'll spike, and then it'll drop back down again. So I'm actually going to drop this down a little bit as well. So I'll drop the whole thing down to there. And then I'll go ahead and for every transition.
A few moments later.
Okay, so let's give that a listen. And when you're done, you just pull that back up and it's back to normal. And then you can drag this. Well, we don't need all this extra stuff at the end either. So move to the end of our sequence, hit Control K to separate the two, and then delete that off. Grab this way again, you'll see the up down arrows, pull that down. We'll more or less get everything back on screen. There we go. And let's just hit play and see how that sounds and looks. Okay, so it's maybe still a bit loud, so I'll press select it, press G, or you can right click and audio gain. And I'm going to adjust the gain for the entire thing by 5. And for a starter, that's not a bad little sound effect that we can get going on there. So I mean, that's pretty cool. We can also go in here and look at, let's have a look. If I open up this timeline, very similar sort of thing going on, only in this first one, what we've got is some clips in there. Exact same sort of deal going on. And then this is with a little bit of movement in the slideshow. Probably too much movement, but just kind of messing around to show how it actually looks. Bit of a slower one, mixing some clips in with some still images. But the sort of techniques used quite a lot these days on YouTube videos and like documentaries and things like that. So it's always something worthwhile keeping in your back pocket, is something that you know how to do. So the links to all of the files, that'll be the images there, those VHS effects there, all of those stills and the PSD, and also those clips that I've used, because they're all just from Pexels. So Pexels definitely worth going and have a look at as well if you've got some free time and you're looking for some good stock footage. But yeah, that's us for this week. So I will catch you in the next one.